They laughed softly as she strode onto the sun-scorched firing range, the desert sun blazing at her back like a warning, her boots spotless, rifle slung with precision, and her regulation uniform crisp, as if she'd stepped out of a ceremonial lineup rather than the grime of combat training. Her name patch read Kira. To most of the soldiers, it could have said rookie, for the battlefield didn't care about appearances, and the veteran officers clung to tradition, none more so than Colonel Torres, a lifelong soldier with decades of unyielding discipline and no patience for what he deemed theatrics and drills. He issued commands sharply, watching her from across the range, and when she knelt beside the Barrett M82, a .50 caliber monster known to break both bones and pride, he leaned toward the other instructors with a smirk. She'll recoil before she exhales. But Kira didn't waver. She set the bipod, lowered herself, inserted the magazine with a click that rang louder than the murmurs around her, and rested her cheek against the scope in silence. The wind was fierce, a dry, desert gust blowing at 9 knots, a sniper's nightmare for accuracy. The heat rising off the sand turned the distant target into a mirage, barely discernible at 2,400 meters. Too far for most. Even seasoned marksmen struggled to hit beyond 2,000 on their first attempt, and 2,500 was a feat few dared try in training. Yet Kira murmured to herself, "Steady. Just 4 ticks left. Breathe." She pulled the trigger as if letting go of a whisper, not a round. The recoil roared through her, but she stayed rooted, eyes fixed, unblinking, as the bullet tore across the range, and 2 seconds later, it smashed the steel target with a resounding clang. One shot, one kill. A stunned silence washed over the field like a wave of disbelief. Even Colonel Torres, his jaw slightly open, glanced at the spotter, who confirmed the impossible, a direct hit at 2,500 meters. The whispers turned to wide-eyed stares, but Kira rose, ejected the magazine, and cleaned the chamber with the smooth motions of someone who'd done this not once or twice, but countless times. What they didn't know, what the colonel missed in her quiet stance and steady aim, was that Kira had once been part of Phantom Unit Delta, a covert unit for missions so classified they left no digital trace, where a confirmed shot was marked not by drone footage but by the silence of a target's absence. Her record was impeccable, but her name was wiped after a mission in the Duskwind conflict, where she'd taken out an entire insurgent command structure with just 4 rounds and a thermal scope. After that, her unit was disbanded amid political fallout, and she resurfaced 3 years later in a place where she could blend in, an obscure sniper training program at a remote base. She wasn't there to prove herself. She was there to watch, to gauge if the new generation still had what it took. But seeing the smugness in their eyes, especially the colonel's dismissive attitude, something sparked in her. Not vengeance, but a need to show what discipline and focus still meant in a world of bravado. After the shot, Colonel Torres approached, helmet in hand, and asked, not with mockery, but with quiet awe, "Where'd you learn to read the wind like that?" Kira met his gaze, voice even, and said, "The Valthor Mountains. They don't let mistakes slide." For the first time in 20 years, the colonel saluted someone not his superior. Word of the shot raced through the base, then the network, reaching command, Black Ops liaisons, and even ex-operatives who recognized the shot as Kira's, a ballistic signature of the ghost sniper, once called Raven, a name whispered in enemy intercepts, now a legend. Soon, others arrived, special ops agents, intelligence officers, even a NATO-affiliated attaché, all asking questions, none getting answers. Kira hadn't returned to fight. She'd come to teach. Over the next few weeks, every recruit, male, female, cocky, or humble, faced her training. Breath control, recoil alignment, instinct-based targeting, and above all, the mantra of calm. If you're not calm, you're not in control. If you're not in control, the shot's meaningless. By the program's end, dozens of new sharpshooters emerged, quicker, sharper, better, not just because they shot well, but because they understood why it mattered. On graduation day, Colonel Torres asked Kira for one final demonstration shot for the brass, an impossible 3,000-meter shot with a suppressed bolt-action rifle and a faulty elevation dial. Smiling, Kira declined. But when a young recruit sneered, suggesting her first shot was luck, the room grew tense. Without a word, Kira picked up the rifle, adjusted it by hand with a scope no better than a hunter's, and fired, not once, but twice. The first bullet struck a hanging metal triangle, sending a clear chime across the range. The second split the triangle's apex into two perfect halves. The room fell silent, then exploded in applause, disbelief, and respect. From that day, no one doubted Kira's presence, her past, or her place. Not because she demanded it, but because she'd shown what no rank, noise, or swagger could. Silence, precision, and a truth only the distance between a trigger pull and a steel echo could prove. Greatness isn't proclaimed. It's proven, 2,500 meters at a time.